Hey there and welcome. Today we're jumping right into a huge challenge for anyone working with platform engineering. How do you automate your TLS certificates when you've got Kubernetes clusters all over the place? We're talking multiple clouds, multiple clusters. It can get messy, so let's figure out how to fix it.
So let me ask you this, especially if you're a senior architect. Your cloud clusters are popping up everywhere, right? EKS, AKS, GKE, you name it. But is your security posture actually keeping pace? It's a serious question, because as your infrastructure grows, so does the complexity of keeping it all locked down.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the big headache, that multi-cloud certificate mess. Then, I'll introduce you to the solution, automated issuers. After that, we'll walk through a high-level plan to get it done, tackle a couple of key challenges you'll probably run into, and finally, we'll cover why you can't just set it and forget it.
Okay, let's dive into the core of the problem. You see, trying to manage certificates by hand in a multi-cloud world, well, it just doesn't work. And when it breaks, it can break badly.
Just picture it for a second. Your team is trying to keep track of every single certificate's expiration date. They're manually creating certificate signing requests, deploying them to services in EKS, then switching gears for AKS, and then again for GKE. It's not just a time sink. It's practically begging for something to go wrong. It's operational chaos, and it's a huge security risk when a cert just quietly dies.
So really, we're at a fork in the road here. We can keep going down the manual path, which, let's be honest, is just asking for trouble. It's full of human error, it's high risk, and it eats up so much valuable time. Or we can take the automated path, a path that's secure, way more reliable, and once you have it running, it's pretty much effortless. The choice seems kind of obvious, right?
So, how do we get on that automated path? Well, it all starts with creating a single source of truth for all your TLS certificates. One central authority that calls the shots.
And the tool that makes this all possible is cert-manager. If you're in the Kubernetes world, you've probably heard of it. It's the standard for a reason. It's a native controller that lives in your cluster, and its whole job is to handle the entire lifecycle of your certificates. It requests them, it gets them issued, and most importantly, it renews them before they ever cause an outage.
Now here's where the magic really happens. It's this concept of an external issuer. See, instead of running a separate cert-manager setup in every single cluster, you point all of them to one central external issuer. This is the absolute key to making multi-cloud certificate management work. That one issuer becomes your single source of truth for everything.
Okay, so we get the what and the why. Now, let's talk about the how. We're going to lay out a high-level blueprint to make this automation a reality.
We can really break this down into 4 straightforward steps. First step, you deploy your tooling, that's cert-manager and its buddies. Step 2, you set up that super important central issuer we just talked about. Third, your application teams can just declare what certificates they need using standard Kubernetes files. Easy. And finally, you just have to validate and verify that everything's working, that certs are being issued and renewed on time.
And you know, the best part about this whole thing is how consistent it is. You're not building a different solution for each cloud. Nope, this is one unified strategy that works exactly the same whether your cluster is on Amazon, Azure, or Google.
Now, like with any big project, you might hit a few bumps along the way. But if you know what they are ahead of time, it's way easier. So let's talk about the common hurdles you'll probably face.
From what we've seen out in the wild, there are 2 main dragons you might have to slay on this quest. Issues with webhook validation and some tricky DNS configurations. But don't worry, knowing is half the battle.
So first, webhook validation. What is that? Well, cert-manager uses webhooks to make sure the certificate requests you're making are valid. The tricky part is, if you're in a really locked-down, firewalled environment, you have to make sure the Kubernetes API server can actually talk to these webhooks. It might take a little extra network configuration to get it just right.
The second challenge is DNS. See, to get a certificate, you have to prove you own the domain you're asking for. The automated way to do this is with something called a DNS-01 challenge, where cert-manager just creates a temporary DNS record for you. The complexity in a multi-cloud setup is making sure your one central issuer has the right permissions to go and create those records in Route 53 and Azure DNS and Cloud DNS.
So you've done it. You build the system, you slayed the dragons, you're done, right? Well, not quite. The last, and maybe most critical piece, is making sure this amazing system you built stays healthy and reliable for the long haul.
I really like this quote because you have to be able to trust your automation. You need to sleep at night knowing it's working. And that means setting up solid monitoring and alerting around your certificate issuance. You got to watch for failures and keep an eye on expirations just to be sure your system is doing its job 24/7.
So what's the reward for all this work? Oh, it's huge. Just look at this. The security risk from expired certificates, it basically goes to zero. All that manual work and late-night panic, gone. And what happens when those things go away? Your system uptime and reliability shoot through the roof.
All right, let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. Number 1, trying to manage certs by hand in a multi-cloud setup is a recipe for disaster. 2, cert-manager with that external issuer pattern is your unified solution. 3, just be ready for those webhook and DNS hurdles. You can handle them. And last but not least, monitor your automation. Trust it, but always verify.
And that's pretty much it. When you put a solution like this in place, you're not just solving one problem. You're giving your team back their most valuable resource, their time. Time they can use to build the next cool thing. So the only question I have for you is, now that your certificates are on autopilot, what are you going to automate next?